Week 16 is here, week 2 of the fantasy football playoffs. My name is Pete Nova with the Face Off Sports Network, and I'm back today to go over my defensive rankings to help you move on to the fantasy football championship. It's been an awesome year. Thank you guys so much for all the support. If you have enjoyed the work, or if you're a first-time listener and you wait till the end of the video if you want, but please like and subscribe to the show. Leave a comment. Doesn't have to be a question. Just let me know that you're here. It helps the algorithm, helps me get pushed out to more people. If you like the content, I'm sure other people will like it as well. Let's go ahead and move on to my rankings and get this thing started. And in the elite tier, it is the Houston Texans. This was a defense that I talked about. I said, if you have the ability to make a trade still, there's a way to get the Houston Texans on your lineup or in your lineup, you need to trade for them. They take on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders are number 2 in the NFL the last 5 weeks in fantasy football at giving up points to opposing defenses. 27 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 1 fumble recovery given up. Kenny Pickett's out there. They had less than 100 yards against the Eagles defense, who I think is actually inferior to this defense. Not to say the Eagles defense is bad, but the Texans defense is better. And Vegas is going to have to go on the road in this one to Houston, and I like them a lot in this matchup. So if you have them, kudos to you. You're feeling pretty comfortable. Then the Buffalo Bills, they take on the Cleveland Browns, and look, Shedeur Sanders looked good against the Tennessee Titans. He made some flashes and some plays in some of the games he's played so far this year. But the Buffalo Bills defense, I think, should be able to take care of this team. When you look at the Browns, they're 7th in the last 5 weeks in points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy. 10 total turnovers, right, in that span. 10 turnovers. Turnovers are weighted more heavily in most leagues than sacks. And keep in mind, 14 sacks over their last 5 games. So I like this matchup a lot. I think Shedeur Sanders and the Browns are going to have trouble in this one. And this is also a Bills team that they just beat the Patriots. They are looking to make a push for that division title, and they can't be messing around. They can't mess around with their food. They're going to take care of business in this one. And then the next team is a little surprising, maybe to some. It is the New Orleans Saints. Consensus has them at 7. I have them at 3. They take on the New York Jets, who are led by Brady Cook. And, Jets right now, 8th in terms of points allowed over the last 5 weeks opposing defenses. And the Saints right now are playing like a really good defense. And they're playing like a decent football team. I mean, credit where credit's due. Kellen Moore has gotten this team in some good spots to win some games. They just beat the Panthers. They beat the Bucs the week before. They swept the Panthers. And that defense has been playing some good ball. They take on the Jets, who have given up 16 sacks over the last 5 weeks, 7 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. I think the Saints come out to play in this one, and I'm excited to see it. If you have them in the lineup, I move them to the elite tier. I feel good about them this week. Let's get them in those lineups for you. Let's go ahead and move over to the very good tier. And it's going to start off with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Philadelphia Eagles in this matchup taking on the Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders led by Marcus Mariota. And honestly, Marcus Mariota has not done a bad job in this offense. Chris Rodriguez, though, I think is the best running back on the team right now. Jacory Cross-Kamara could be better long-term. He's a rookie. He's still getting acclimated. But Chris Rodriguez might not play next week. He didn't play this past week. Zach Ertz not being there is a huge hole in the offense. I like Ben Sinnott, but Zach Ertz is a savvy veteran, and it's a big loss to that offense. Deebo Samuel really hasn't came to play in I don't even know how long it's been. Terry McLaurin made some plays here and there, but ultimately, I like this Eagles team here, right? They got to step on the throat. They got to continue to rattle off some convincing wins, right? They took care of business against the Raiders, didn't give up more than 100 yards. Washington's not nearly as bad as the Raiders, in my opinion, but they're still pretty bad. Denver Broncos then here at number 5. And look, they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Consensus has the Denver Broncos at 5. I had them at 5 as well. I know, they take on a Jaguars team that's been really hot on offense lately. Right now, over the last 5 weeks, they've given up 6 sacks in the last 5 games, and they've given up 4 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries. But to me, I think this is a perfect matchup for Denver. Trevor Lawrence has played really well. These are 2 really hot teams, but Denver's going to be home in this one. And I think they match up very good against this defense. My biggest concern is that Denver lost starting safety Brandon Jones, who looks like he's going to miss some time. Probably he went on IR, so he is going to miss some time, and that could be, lead to some possible miscommunications in the back end. But I still expect him to generate some sacks and get a turnover here and there. And honestly, a game that could be high scoring, and even if it is high scoring, that could lead Trevor Lawrence to have to throw the football and take more chances. So I'll take Denver there at number 5. They showed up well against the Packers last week, who the Packers, keep in mind, 32nd when it came to points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy. They gave the Broncos the number 7 finish on the week. Then I have the Los Angeles Rams here. This is a little bit surprising, probably to some. Rams consensus have at 10. I have them at 6. Some people have Seattle ahead of the Rams. I don't in this one. Seattle's run game has looked absolutely terrible. The run game is not getting better. And so it's putting a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold to make a lot of plays. And I think this Rams defense is better than the Colts defense. This is the second time they get to see this team. And so you could say the same thing for both, where, hey, Seattle has an off advantage because they get to see that defense again. But you could also say the same thing about the defense for the Rams, getting to see Sam Darnold again. And the last time they saw Sam Darnold, he did turn into a pumpkin. I think they can generate the pressure that's needed in this game. And I like the Rams here at number 6. So I'm going to take them over Seattle this week in that matchup. Let's move on to the next tier here. And this is the freaky tier, right? And I call it freaky tier because there are some defenses in this tier, man, that, they are not very good, but just bear with me as I go through these because I want you to understand my reasoning as to why I have these defenses where I do. I have the Vikings here at number 7, right? Vikings defense has played better as of late. They take on the Giants, and the Giants are number 6 over the last 5 weeks in terms of points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy. They've only played 4 games in that 5-week span, but 6 sacks in those 4 games, 3 interceptions, two fumble recoveries. And honestly, the offense, without Malik Neighbors, right? They've had some pop here and there. Jackson Dart, again, evaluated for a concussion last week. I'll take the Vikings in this one. I like them in this matchup. I'm feeling confident that the Vikings, they are traveling on the road in this one, but I'm feeling confident about the Vikings. Then I have the Tennessee Titans here at 8, ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Tennessee Titans consensus has them at 22. I have them at 8. I am not sure why consensus has the Tennessee Titans so low in this matchup. They're taking on a team that has Gardner Minshew at the helm. He threw 5 passes when Patrick Mahomes was out of that game. And in those 5 passes, he threw an interception. They're traveling on the road to Tennessee, who has looked better, right? It's not showing up on the scoreboard, but the defense, the team itself has played better. And honestly, I trust that Tennessee Titans offense probably more this week than I do the Kansas City offense to score points. And this team in the Tennessee Titans, I know people keep targeting them as a team that they think is going to be fantasy football gold, but they're 24th when it comes to points allowed to opposing defenses in the last 5 games. 11 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries allowed, 1 interception allowed, but that's over a 5-game span. They're just not giving up nearly as much as we thought to opposing defenses in fantasy. So I like the Titans here, and I'm going to stick with the Titans. Then I had the Giants here at 9, right? So if you look at these 4, if you look at 4 out of these 5 games, it's 2 teams in both games, right? It's just going to be sloppy games, and one of these defenses are going to come out on top, and I feel confident about the Titans. I like the Giants here at 9. Giants taking on, the Vikings, and JJ McCarthy has looked better. Give credit where credit's due. It's been the last 2 games, but they are going to have to go on the road in cold weather and play outdoors, right? We haven't seen JJ McCarthy look better outdoors. We've seen him do it in a dome against the Dallas Cowboys. We saw it the week prior where he looked good against Washington, but a lot of that set up short fields for him because the defense played really, really good for the Vikings, and that was in a dome as well. They're going to have to travel to New York, right? New York has a good front 7. Brian Burns is number 2 in the NFL for sacks. They have a good front 7. I think they can generate some sacks and possibly get a turnover here and there. So I do like the Giants there. And for those that are curious and keeping track, consensus has the Giants at 17. I have the Giants at number 9. Then I have the Dallas Cowboys here at 10. Consensus has them at 16. They're taking on the Chargers at home in this matchup. The Chargers, you guys got to understand, they are giving up points to opposing defenses in fantasy, and it's been like this practically all year because of the amount of sacks that they give up. Now, Dallas, their defense has been up and down. We know this. They just had a bad game against JJ McCarthy. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to roll out Dallas after they fell flat on their face last week against the Vikings. But Justin Herbert is playing with a bum hand. We haven't seen them really open up the playbook the last 2 weeks. They've kept it very conservative, a lot of running the football. And over the last 4 games, Justin Herbert's taken 17 sacks. There's been 4 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries. That's a lot. I mean, they're averaging, more than 4 sacks a game to opposing defenses right now over their last 4 weeks. So I'll take them in this matchup here, Dallas at 10. And then I have the Kansas City Chiefs at 11, right? Kansas City Chiefs at 11, we flip-flopped there when I talked about the Tennessee Titans, and I said that the Titans are not giving up a lot of points to opposing defenses, but the Kansas City Chiefs are giving a lot of points to the opposing defenses, which is why I had the Titans there at 8, right? Kansas City, I know I'm kind of going out of order here, but Kansas City 10th in points allowed to opposing defenses, 17 sacks in 5 games, 7 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. I don't think it's going to look better with Minshew. And on the flip side here, looking at Kansas City's defense, we talked about it more on the Tennessee Titans side of things with their defense, but looking at Kansas City's defense, I think they're a safe floor play, but I don't think the ceiling is high as we expect. They're traveling on the road in this one, right? The Titans, as I said before, are not really turning the football over much, right? The Titans have 3 fumble recoveries allowed and 1 interception. That's less than 1 turnover a game in the last 5 weeks. And that's credit where credit's due. Cam Ward has cleaned up things as opposed to earlier on in the season. Now, let's go ahead and move over to the next tier number 4 here. And I just called this one tier number 4. I didn't have a special name for this one. I didn't want to, I lost my creative juices there. But San Francisco here at 12, a little bit sketchy with San Francisco, right? We look at this San Francisco game and Phillip Rivers, we know they're not going to push the ball down the field, right? If San Francisco's run defense can hold up here, right, against them, right, then it can kind of bring the floor up because I don't expect them to be airing it out. Now, keep in mind, San Francisco's defense, not very good. We saw the Titans, put up some decent points. Now, the Titans kind of showed up a little later in the game and put up some points and kind of screwed up the defense at the end of the game. But still, right, Jonathan Taylor is the biggest concern in this one, right? The run defense has been sloppy when it comes to tackling, but it is their strength right now, right? So if the run defense can sell out and force Phillip Rivers to push the ball down the field, right, will there be some turnovers? I expect there to be some turnovers in this one. I'm just looking at it from a game perspective, and I just feel like if I'm looking at how I think this is going to play out, I expect San Francisco to sell out for the run, right? Phillip Rivers and them throwing all these passes behind the line of scrimmage, those 5-yard throws, maybe 10 yards max. Like, he didn't push the ball down the field much. They're going to dare him to do so, and they're going to load the box. So San Francisco here at 12. Then I have Seattle at 13, and I know it's super disappointing, right? Consensus has them at 6. If you want to roll with Seattle, guys, go for it. I would not blame you for wanting to roll with Seattle, but they're taking on the Rams, and the Rams have been phenomenal all season long. Now, it is worth noting, Seattle did play good against the Rams defensively the last time that they played. It was kind of overshadowed, by Sam Darnold's absolute implosion, when they last played. Rams offense hasn't really allowed much to opposing defenses. The last time Seattle played them, they got 0 sacks on Matthew Stafford, and they got 1 fumble recovery. They only put up 2 fantasy points. Now, passing yards wise, only 130 passing yards for Matthew Stafford. That's the lowest amount of passing yards that Stafford had all season long. Stafford's going to have to play on the road in this one. So maybe that's something that you enjoy. If you're looking for a floor play, go for it. But we're in the playoffs. I'm looking for ceiling right now. I'm looking to take risks. That's just what I do, right? I don't play it safe. Every time I play it safe in fantasy in the playoffs, majority of the time I get burned. And so that's not what I'm going to do. But if you want to play it safe with Seattle, I totally get that. Falcons here at 14. Falcons taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals have given up points to defenses, 14th in the league right now in terms of points allowed to opposing defenses, right? 13 sacks in 5 games, right? 5 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries. The problem is it's the passing yards. 317 passing yards over that span is what's limiting teams on how many points they score, right? Those thresholds start to go up when it comes to yards allowed against opposing defenses. So I like the Falcons, though, because they do generate a lot of pressure. The run game is banged up. They just lost Bam Knight now, right? For the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe Marvin Harrison comes in. I do expect the offense to still be pretty solid passing the football, but I'll take the Falcons to get some sacks here. They are an intriguing play. Detroit Lions, I wanted to have Detroit a little bit higher. I had them at 15. They take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and consensus has them at 11. I'd love to have the Lions higher, but they lose key players in the secondary. They're playing against Aaron Rodgers, who is getting the ball out quickly. He's looked pretty good over the last 2 weeks. And the one saving grace in this game is that Detroit can push the football and push the point total and forcing, Steelers to come from behind in this one, right? And maybe that leads to some turnovers, but not generating a ton of not giving up a ton of sacks of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 29th when it comes to points allowed to opposing defenses, just 7 sacks allowed in the last 5 games. They're averaging about a sack a game, maybe slightly more than a sack a game, but it's really not much. So that's why I don't have Detroit higher. I like them before the playoffs started, when Brian Branch was on the team and available, when the Steelers, before they went on the last 2-week tear here, where they've looked much better and more competent as an offense, right? Variables and things have changed, and that's why they've dropped a little bit lower on my list. Now, the next thing here, we're going to go over the rest here, and it's just a pile of steamy crap, right? Now, there are going to be teams in this tier that are probably going to surprise us, right? That is what's going to happen. It happens every single week. Now, I have the Green Bay Packers here at 13. They take on the Chicago Bears. Chicago, right now, Chicago's offense is playing very, very solid football. Now, no Luther Burden, possibly no Rome Odunze. That could affect where they are, and they might get a bump up. So keep that in mind. If the Green Bay Packers are of interest to you, keep that in mind. Let's check out the injury report and see how they progress. But they just lost Micah Parsons. That defense was not scoring a ton for fantasy. And when you look at the Bears, Bears 18th in points allowed, right? In the last 5 weeks, 9 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries allowed, 2 interceptions allowed, and 1 defensive special teams touchdown allowed. Then I had the Patriots here at 17. They take on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens offense has looked better, but over the last 5 weeks, they're number 4 when it comes to points allowed to opposing defenses. 5 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries allowed, 15 total sacks, right? Lamar has struggled when it comes to mobility, but the problem is the Patriots, their defense has also kind of struggled a little bit, right? No Milton Williams, right? They haven't been nearly as good as they were in the past earlier on in the season, and the special teams are not scoring those touchdowns, which was boosting this defense up. They're not scoring those touchdowns like we saw so much in the beginning of the season. Moving on to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had them at 18. I ranked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers high in my rankings, before, for the playoff rankings, but, we have to adjust, right? That's why it's so hard to look ahead. We do our best, but they just lost another cornerback in the secondary. The run defense has struggled. They're taking on the Panthers, and the Panthers don't give up a ton of points to opposing defenses in fantasy. To opposing offenses in fantasy. To opposing defenses in fantasy. The Panthers right now, 25th in points allowed over the last 5 weeks, 9 sacks in 4 games, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. Like, they're just not giving up a ton. And Tampa Bay, they haven't really they haven't came to play. Now, it was a short week. They get a little extra time, but they're banged up in the secondary. And yeah, so I had them at 18. Baltimore Ravens at 19. Look, Drake May, if this is a high-scoring game, sometimes if he tends to play a little hero ball, maybe we get some turnovers there. That's why I have them there at 19 for the Ravens. Maybe Drake May takes a couple of sacks, right? You look at the Patriots and kind of where they rank. They're 20th in points allowed to opposing defenses. Drake May, just two interceptions over the last 4 weeks. They did give up a special teams touchdown / defensive touchdown, and they've given up 8 sacks. So 2 sacks per game. So Ravens defense has played a little bit better. Then I have the Miami Dolphins here at 20, and Miami is taking on, the Cincinnati Bengals, and, consensus has the Miami Dolphins at 23. Miami's a little interesting here, right? The Bengals are number 1 when it comes to points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy in the last 5 weeks. They've given up a defensive special teams interception. They have 5 of those defensive special teams touchdowns. So it's either a defensive touchdown or 1 on special teams. they've given up 5 over the last 5 weeks, right? And that's what I said on the last video. If you remember that, I said I'd love to have the Ravens higher, but I just didn't. It's so hard to predict the interceptions for touchdowns, fumble recoveries for touchdowns, special teams touchdowns. It's hard to predict that, right? It's not a sticky thing week over week. But, Miami's an interesting play here against the Bengals, especially if T. Higgins doesn't go and this defense has played much better. And it is in Miami. So they are at home in that game. Now, Jacksonville, I have at 21. Jacksonville is, a defense that, look, they played great. They're ranked 9 on consensus. Why that is, I do not know. I am not being a homer here with the Broncos, but the Broncos are the lowest points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy. They have 2 turnovers over the last 4 weeks and just 6 total sacks in their last 4 games, right? The Packers didn't sack them once last week, and this offense is starting to pick up at the right time. They have a great offensive line. The one thing the Jaguars have done very, very well for defense is they've created turnovers, right? And this is a team in Denver that doesn't generate or give up a lot of turnovers. So I'm not going to rank Jacksonville high going on the road. It's, a warm weather team going into the cold in Denver, against a hot offense. I'm just not going to rank them higher. The Carolina Panthers, I have at 22 here. I wanted to have the Carolina Panthers higher. I definitely considered it against the Bucs here. Panthers are one of those teams that may go up a little bit in my rankings. And honestly, you could make the case that the Bucs might go down and the Panthers might go up in this case. Honestly, it's very, very possible that those two flip-flop completely. Then I have the New York Jets at 23. And then I have the Chicago Bears at 24. I'm not going to spend too much time on talking about both of those teams. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Supernova38. I know I haven't been the best at posting on the community page my updated rankings. I do apologize for that, but it's best to follow me on Twitter because that's where it goes out early in the morning on Sundays. You can also make sure you catch me live on Sundays as well when I will be answering questions for start sets. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.